What's up, everyone? Hope everybody's doing well today or tonight, wherever you are in the world. If you like the content that I create, make sure you like the videos, subscribe, consider sharing it, comment, all that fun stuff. If there's any other topics you would like me to talk about, feel free to comment those as well. So, tonight I'm going to talk about something that I think honestly needs to be talked about, and you know, there's quite a bit to get into this, to be honest, but what I'm going to be talking about, so to say, is what rejection does to a man and an otaku man. So we're going to break both of these down. And, you know, hopefully this will give you all some good information, obviously. So, a man, you know, his overall way of living, you know, obviously affects a man. And what I mean is how he was brought up, how he was raised, how the things he has to deal with, you know, growing up, whenever he's a little boy to a teenager to a young adult and getting older. So what rejection does to a man is some very, very bad stuff. Now, this could be rejection from co-workers.
Top-notch team to win this one.
This could be rejection from a person you want to be your friend or a friend. This could be rejection from an acquaintance. This can be rejection from a relationship. That woman you like rejected you. You know, the list goes on and on. How's it going? Hey, Rosa. The list goes on, and it only gets worse. Like, so when a man, especially, you know, when a man is going through, you know, say school, you know, as a young teen, and his relationships at that point will affect him for the rest of his life. I'll say that again. His relationships during that time will affect him for the rest of his life. And the reason I say that is if a man gets rejected by all the girls he likes, if he gets rejected by all the people that he thought were friends, if he gets rejected by family members, obviously this is going to do something to the man. It's common sense. But if a man, when he's young, misses out on very important relationships, such as friendships, family, you know, that woman you like, this is going to be extremely bad for the man growing up.
This is gonna hurt.
No, this is honestly going to be a kind of a negative topic.
You're loading up on resources.
I guess to some people anyway. But anyway,
You've got competition.
if a man, like I said, if a man, you know, is missing out on all these relationships, he doesn't have the skills to build these types of relationships that he should have had when he was younger. And is it flipping me pause it? Okay, I think all forms of rejection are bad unless, I mean, I guess if a snake rejects you, I guess there's not really any loss there, but like, anyway, as I was saying, when a man misses out on these types of relationships that he's supposed to have had when he was younger, this will damage the male's psyche as he grows up. And this will cause a lot of issues that will stay with him for the rest of his life. And so an example of this would be, say a boy is 14, 15 years old, right? And say there's like this girl he likes, right? Crap. And then, you know, he decides to walk up to her, introduce himself, and, you know, is being respectful and all this kind of stuff. And the woman rejects him for some stupid reason, something that's just dumb. This is going to do something to the male psyche. Now, you may think, oh, well, one rejection is not going to do too much damage. And, well, I mean, you're kind of partially right, but, you know, let's say that this boy, you know, from the time he transfers from 15 to 18 years of age, let's say he's done liked like 4 or 5 different girls. And every time he's went up to them, he's completely been rejected, outcasted, and pushed aside. So this is going to make a man feel extremely worthless. And they're going to feel like that they're never good enough for anybody, whether it's friends, family, you know, husband material, boyfriend material, none of that kind of stuff. Man, I'm getting clobbered in this thing. And this will honestly also make the man completely and utterly socially withdraw. Like, rejection to a man, like, you'll hear the thing, like the saying that, like, the number one thing that women hate is cheating, right? Well, I don't necessarily know if that's true, by the way. I kind of highly doubt that. But for a man, it's 2 things. Disrespect is the first. And rejection is number 2. And what also, when a man is rejected, like I said, he will go and socially withdraw. He will do this because he is wanting to avoid further hurt. You know, he will withdraw from, you know, social groups, you know, gatherings. It could be church gatherings. It could be gathering at the library. It could be a gathering on a game. It could really be a lot of things, right? So now that the man is into this kind of thinking and this kind of type of mindset, the man is going to further his problem of isolation and loneliness unknowingly. And it's honestly pretty sad that when a man gets to this point, because, you know, it's almost like there's just no hope in this scenario. Like, it honestly feels that way. And, you know, people today will tell you, oh, well, you know, just keep trying. Just keep trying to find that one. Just keep trying to find that friend. And it's like, you know, how many more failures does this man need before he completely just and utterly gives up on trying to find any of this? Because and the reason I say that is because, so take it like this. When a Christian will ask God for forgiveness of whatever sin he's committed, right? God does not necessarily care about your words. Like, he cares about your actions. Like, are you going to do what you can do to try to stop? Are you going to do the best you can to stop? Like, you know, and the reason I bring this up is, like, because if you're not showing any results of even trying to stop, if you're not showing any results of being sincere or genuine, it honestly just doesn't matter at the end of the day, because your prayer is in vain. So it's honestly the same thing with, like, you know, rejection, because obviously, you know, you got the thing, words will, you know, hurt you, you know, and the whole thing sticks and stones and they break my bones kind of scenario. But, like, going back to what I was saying, now, when you're talking to God, you know, obviously he wants actions. Now, I'm not saying he just flat out doesn't just care about words, period. But on the other hand, you know, you can say all these words like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to stop, and then the next day you do it again, and then you just keep on doing it like you don't really care. You know, your words are in vain at this point. They don't even really matter, because you're not even trying to even solve the issue or the problem. And when a man gets rejected, especially by a woman that he likes, that's going to extremely damage the man's psyche. It's going to extremely damage the way he views himself, his self-esteem, right? And a man's self-esteem, I'm going to tell you this now, after you face rejection that many times, your self-esteem is going to be down the shitter. That's what I call justice. And you know, I know this from my life. I've seen this happen to many of men. And it's honestly really sad to see, because we live in a world now to where men are more lonely than ever. You know, you got all these kinds of people telling you a bunch of crap. Red pillars telling you all this crap. Blue pillars telling you all this crap. Religious people telling you all this crap. And, you know, it's all a bunch of fear-mongering. It's all nonsense, because what I mean by that is, say, like, you know, with religious people, right? They will be like, well, you know, you have God, so that's really all that matters. You know, nothing else should matter. And it's like, you know, are you delusional? Like, do you suffer from a mental illness? Because it's like, you know, in a sense, you're right, but in a sense, you're very sadly mistakenly wrong, because if that were the case, if all we needed was God and God alone in our life, then human beings would not need or have the ability or need to connect with other human beings. Human beings rely on other human beings, regardless if, you know, you're saying you're one of those red pillars and saying, oh, I don't need anybody. It's all nonsense, because that is how the human is programmed. That is how God programmed the human mind, the human brain, to want human affection from a partner. I mean, it could even be a friend, someone to cry on, a hug, you know. And when a man is neglected of all these things, he's got nowhere to turn. He's got nowhere to turn. I mean, sure, yeah, he can talk to God about his problems, but, you know, I mean, that goes back to what I just said before. Human beings need other human beings to thrive and survive. You know, a human being cannot survive without human connection. Happy baby Jeff. Dude, I love Jeffy. He's so cute. I would love to have him as a pet. Like, I wish he was real so bad. Like, I would literally have him with me everywhere I go. But, yeah, like, another thing, too, is when a man is rejected, this will increase, like, I mean, anxiety, fear, and depression to a maximum. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I know this firsthand. I've seen this countless times. I've read about it online, you know, of men posting on Reddit forums, Quora forums, you know, all these kinds of forums online talking about this kind of thing, how they're just so depressed, so anxious because nobody wants anything to do with them. And it doesn't look like... I mean, I like real sharks, but he's supposed to be a land shark. Like, he's kind of like a cross between a shark and a puppy, honestly. Another thing, too, like how I was talking about, is like, you know, you're going to feel very anxious around social situations if you've been rejected. Like, and I'm going to be honest with you, if a man gets rejected to the point to where, like, it's worst case scenario, the man may actually lose the ability to know how to talk to people. And I'm not even joking. When a man gets to this point, it's like it's as worse as it can be, because, you know, when you're so used to that, being rejected all your life, you know, like I said, your self-esteem is going to be down the shitter. You're not going to have any self-esteem. All you're going to have is self-hate. You're going to feel worthless. You're not going to feel like you have anything of value. You're not going to feel like you're valuable. You'll have a lot of feelings of inadequacy. And it's brutal, y'all. It really is. It's very bad to deal with. Like, it's not fun to deal with. And, you know, this anxiety and fear and depression, you know, it will make him feel anxious in even romantic situations too. So say this man, by some miracle of God, finds a good woman, you know, let's say in the Western world, right? I mean, I know that's kind of a joke, but like, you know, what do you expect, like, this man to be like? Because, you know, if he's done all this, you know, if he's been through all this, what makes you think that, you know, he's just going to all of a sudden just stop feeling this way? And that's the problem with a lot of people. They'll just say, oh, well, you know, pretend like your past. It's like, you know, they try to make you pretend like your past didn't happen. And a man is not just going to forget the countless times he's been rejected. Because if a man does do that, that means they did not give a shit to begin with. And I'm not necessarily talking about those types of men. But another thing, too, is when a man is rejected. Thank you, Rosa. You know, this will also have, like, you know, behavior issues too. Like, you may even, like, start to try to people please because, you know, you're so desperate for someone to stop rejecting you that you'll start people pleasing. And, you know, I've talked about people pleasing on this channel before, and we'll probably talk about it again. But yeah, do not people please. You know, your life is your life. You do not serve anyone but you and God. You know, and if you have a good spouse, then I guess that counts too. But also as well, you know, you're also going to have extreme fear. I mean, extreme fear of intimacy. And what I mean by this is, okay, say you got two situations you're dealing with here. Okay, say you have never had intimacy in your life. This includes sexual contact, kissing, hugs, cuddling, all of that, right? You know, a man is going to be like extremely, he's not going to be able to function because he doesn't know what to do in this scenario. And you know, he's going to start feeling anxious, anxiety, fear, you know, and maybe even might act out in regression because of all the pain and the hurt that starts bubbling up. And it's really sad that when this kind of thing happens, because you know, there's way too many men that are like this, y'all. Like, it's not even funny. And another thing too is like extreme anger and aggression. So, you know, some men possibly may even lash out in anger or resort to possibly aggressive measures, you know, to try to regain a sense of control after, you know, feeling rejected. And, you know, that's not good at all for a man to do. But it's like, you know, at the same time, this man is acting out in pain. Like, and it's very sad to hear. And a lot of people will tend to judge a person because of that. And, you know, like I said, you will have extreme, you know, social pressure on you as well. Society loves to give social pressure to men. You know, more than women, obviously, but social pressure is for both genders. You know, social pressure does not care about gender at all. It affects every gender, like both of them. Like, it's just it's wild, y'all. Like, it's crazy, but you know, at the same time, you know, you're going to be, you know, you're going to feel also a threat to your masculine energy. And, man, this guy has been on my ass the whole game. Game is a little loud and distracting. I have no way to turn that down, man. I've got the game in my headphones. Anyway,
This is real fire.
can you hear me a little bit better now? Another thing too is like when a man, dude, get off of me, dude. Anyway, you know, a lot of men, you know, will
They hit a checkpoint. Now might be a good
think,
time to
you know,
stop them.
about rejection, like as you know, it will be kind of like, you know, they'll feel like that they have failed in life. They will feel like like I said, they don't amount to nothing. They'll feel like, you know, and when they do try to, and if they do end up getting a spouse, it's going to be really bad because they're probably not going to believe them on a lot of things since they've been told a lot of other stuff. And the same thing for rejection goes for bullying. Bullying is a form of rejection. Probably one of the more extreme versions of rejection. And, you know, if a man is bullied as well, if he endures that type of rejection as well, it's like, you know, that's just more fuel to add to the fire. And your past will affect you in the future, regardless of, you know, what political party you affiliate with, no matter whatever religion you affiliate with. Your past will affect you in the future. And, you know, I've known this for myself and I, for a long time now. I've seen this happen to other people, other men. And the thing that men don't understand, I guess, is they need to fix the past before they can even begin to heal. And what I mean by that is, so if a man has been rejected his whole life, right? The only thing that will... I don't see how Daredevil is literally KOing everybody in one hit, but whatever. Anyway, if a man has been rejected his whole life like that, you know, there is really only one cure for this. And the only cure to help him is literally him either, whatever he got rejected from, is if he finally gets it. Because until then, he will not be able to heal. So let's say a man. Why don't they have man thing in this game? He'd be perfect for Halloween. I have no idea, man. But they don't. But this team is crap that I'm playing as. But they're not defending me. I'm trying to heal them, and they need him. Anyway, as I was saying, like, you know, say a man gets rejected by a woman that he is, like, very interested in, you know, and it's just happened time and time and time and time and time again. So, you know, this is going to obviously do something to the man, like I said, and that's his past. When he grows up, that's his past. So you would have to be crazy to think that's not going to affect him later on in life. You know, your past affects you no matter what you do. Like, you see this in real life, you see this in movie films. You know, you see it everywhere. The past always comes back to bite you in the ass. And there's not anything you can do about it until you fix the problem. And the only way to fix the problem, like I said, with rejection, is if the man finds a woman, if he was rejected of a woman, or some friendships, if he was rejected of friendships. Now, if the man was rejected of family, this one's a really tough one. So, if a man was rejected of family, the only shot he has of literally,
30 seconds before you attack.
you know, getting family is to find a woman to have a family with and be better to his kids than his family was to him. Now, this right here will help a man tremendously if they do this, and I've seen many of them do it. Come from broken home to broken home, and
Battle starts in 5.
you know, they go on to have kids later on, and they were way better parents than how their parents was to them, to the man. And it's like, you know, that's really good. I would say that's a good happy ending. So that's good. And you know, I know, like, for me, like, another thing, a man will not want to look at himself in the mirror, especially if he has been constantly rejected by women. Or, you know, friends, co-workers, family, any of that stuff. If he's been rejected of that, he will not want to look at himself in the mirror due to his self-esteem. His self-esteem will be shot. It'll be down the toilet. And he will have no self-esteem. And me personally, I can tell you now, I'm in my 30s, and I do not have self-esteem. Like, I have not had self-esteem probably since I was maybe 6 years old. And, you know, it's like, you know, your past defines you, regardless if you want to believe it or not. You know, now sure, you know, if you've committed some type of sin, sure, you know, if you find God and genuinely ask for forgiveness, yeah, sure, you can be forgiven for that and your past is clean, but, like, we're not necessarily talking about this, obviously. But, you know, a lot of these people will say, oh, just keep trying.
Behold the god of thunder!
Or, oh, they'll tell you, oh, you have someone in your life that cares. You have someone in your life that loves you.
The god of thunder!
And it's like, you know, they're trying to tell you, they're being dismissive, trying to tell you that they know better, your life better than you know your own life. I mean, think about how absurd it is to say, oh, yeah, you do. If someone's telling you genuinely, hey, I don't have anybody in my life, I don't have family, I don't have friends, I don't have a wife, I mean, if you're a woman, I don't have a husband, like, you know, or whatever, you know, whatever it is, or, you know, you don't have a special person in your life, you know, whether it's a coworker or romantic interest, whatever you want to say, right? You're gonna feel like you're never gonna be able to get this. Like, I know for me, personally, before I got married, when I was 16 years old, I was already ready to marry. And, you know, that's another topic for another video, but the reason I brought it up is because I wasn't the type to want to just go out with random chick after chick. You know, that just wasn't for me. And
30 seconds before you attack.
another thing too is, right, like, if you really think that, another thing too, if you really think that these people that you're telling this to have your best interest at heart, you're sadly mistaken. Because you will get met with some of the most nonsense answers, the most stupid answers.
2, 1.
Like I mentioned before,
Got it?
if, another thing, so say you're a man, and let's just say you had one girlfriend, right? And, you know, say you had sexual interaction with this female, and then every other female rejected you after, you know, you and your girlfriend broke up. Now, I'm not talking about just sexually, I'm talking about at all aspects.
Looks like the mission area is yours.
A man is going to feel extremely awkward in this sense. Whether it be cuddling wise, kissing wise, sexual wise, you know, emotional support wise, whatever, right? And it's very brutal to have to deal with this. Like, it's very brutal. Like, you know, I know people personally, you know, even in my Discord server who have dealt with this. And, you know, when I made the poll I made the poll in my Discord server and on my YouTube channel, and honestly, I thought the other one was going to win as soon as I made the poll, like, you know, about why dating sites aren't good for men. And it was like, you know, I was completely blown away by the fact that almost every single person that voted for this video topic we're talking about now. And, you know, it only goes to show and proves my point, because, you know, these men have not moved past this. They've not moved past it, because the only way to move past it is to get what you were rejected and missed out on. So, you know, people can disagree with me all they want, but, you know, it's the freaking truth. Like, you can't change the truth just because you don't like it. And this is something that's true. Like, and, you know, I do plan on talking about sometime for the women of the channel, you know, that watch this channel. I plan on doing a video about what rejection does to a woman at some point, you know. And so, also another thing as well is, like, you know, not only the fact is, like, okay, Jeff was like totally flying there for a moment. Like I mentioned about, like, social pressures, you know, this is going to be harder for them to say no to somebody since they were rejected, because, like I mentioned earlier, they become a people pleaser and trying to please everyone around them, whether it, like I said, whether it's, you know, family-wise if they've got it, you know, co-worker-wise, friend-wise, relationship-wise, romantic interest-wise, you know, all of that stuff, right? They're going to want to people please. And I'm going to give an example here. I am going to probably mention this again in my video of about the one about women, but I'm gonna use this as an example. So I was in a relationship with this woman one time, and she was literally spending like all of her money on me. Like, I mean, almost every dime. Like, I had, like, she told me, like, she would constantly tell me, oh, just buy it, just buy this, buy that, whatever you want. And I actually put it to the test one time. I had like $300 of Pokemon cards in Amazon cart. And I said this as a joke, by the way. I was like, she's like, well, what all you got in there? I said, I got some Pokemon cards. She's like, well, how much is it? I was like 300 and something, you know, because I was testing her, right? And she was completely unfazed by this. She also does this to other people, as I've seen as well. I mean, she did it worse to me since I was a man and she was romantically interested in me. She did it to me more, but I've seen her do it to her friends too. And, you know, I was like, you know, I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm not going to spend $300 like that. Like, that's just kind of crazy. And it was like, kid you not, this chick, she
30 seconds before
she was like, well, if you don't order it, then I will. And I mean, I was constantly having packages coming left and right. You know, I was getting stuff from whatever store I wanted. And what it was boiled down to is, the reason I'm bringing this up is because this applies to a man too. This is called, that's a form of people pleasing. You're trying to use money to buy love, affection, and attraction instead of being rejected. And women do this to men do this to women. It goes both ways. You know, there's even times where a male friend will try to do this to one of his guy friends. I had a friend like that once, and you know, it made me feel really uncomfortable. Because you know, he was like, oh hey, you know, I'll buy this and this and this and this, and you know, he'll just talk, and it's like, you know. But anyway, that's long since passed. But I will say this: don't people please, because people pleasing honestly gets nowhere. Because at this point, you're becoming a target just for someone to use, and abuse. And that's all it'll ever be. You will never get genuine love, regardless if you're a man or a woman doing this, to try to get a romantic interested in you. You'll never get it. And it'll never be genuine. It's going to be fake. It's going to be artificially fake. And it's like, you know, don't put yourself through that, obviously. And, you know, it's honestly ridiculous, because, you know, another thing too is, like, when a man, you know, is rejected all this time, one of the reasons he gives up on a lot of things is because he's already expecting it. Like, he feels no need to sit here and try to, you know, try to get another, like, a relationship or a friendship, because he already knows at this point he's just going to be rejected again. And, you know, the more rejection you deal with, the more problems you have later on in life. And I'll say that again, as a man, the more you're rejected early in your life, and like in your young adult years as well, the worse your life will become. Because I'm not going to sit here and tell you something that these red pillars will tell you, or blue pillars, or, all these other religious people. I'm not going to tell you that, because, some of the stuff that these people spout off is complete nonsense. Like, I'm not necessarily saying religion is nonsense, because it's not. I mean, I'm a Christian myself, and it's not nonsense. But, like, a lot of the things Christians say to personal issues, struggles, and problems, it's complete nonsense, because they don't even care. It's like, all they care about is trying to convert said person, and then they just leave them and abandon them on their own. Like, I've dealt with that my entire life. And I'm not saying all Christians are like that, so do not put words in my mouth. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, watch who you hang around. Watch who the type that you get involved with, because that's all going to depend on, emotional support system kind of stuff. Like if you are religious, if you're a Christian or whatever, you're going to need that emotional support from people like you. And, I will say this. I have been a Christian for going on almost 10 years, and I have never had emotional support from a church, a pastor, or any of that. And it's like, a Christian doesn't have to go to church. If they tell you that you have to, then ask them to quote it in the Bible, because I'll tell you what they'll say. Well, you have to fellowship with like-minded believers. That's the main one that they will bring up. There are a couple of other ones, but you'll notice when you read these verses and you further read down, instead of it being chopped, you'll notice God is not telling you to go to a church building. He's not telling you to do this. What he's telling you is to converse with other believers. Now, this could be at the grocery store, this could be in the woods, this could be in the street, it can be on the video game, it can be online, it could be at a Bible study group on Discord. There's a lot of things that would qualify as that. And that's another thing, is a lot of the times the church will reject certain kind of men, especially the depressed, the anxious, the lonely, the broken. And don't let it bother you, because I know that's easier said than done, but that's only going to further your problems with being rejected, right? And another thing is, like, you're going to be able to determine everything is rejection, like when somebody's talking too. Like, even think, like, it'll even get to a point to where, like, even if it's not rejection, if it's just like small talk, you'll take it as rejection, because your brain is so used to being rejected. And like I said, this completely destroys the mind of the man. It completely destroys it. And, it completely replaces it with doubt, fear, all these negative emotions, right? And, in this case, fear is not your friend in this case. And, you're going to also experience intense negative reaction to a lot of things. And, like I said, it's really gonna isolate you from possible. Now, I say that with parentheses, possible, which is not likely, I'll be honest, of finding someone to chat with that's genuine. People today have a misconstrued version of what a friend is, what a relationship is, and it's like, I've talked about it in my other video. I'm not going to cover it on this, but another thing too is, like, let's say you actually do find a woman, right? you actually do find a woman,
Their team's capture progress
and
is past the halfway point.
you know, you fall in love with this woman, and you know, she says she did the same with you. There's going to be major problems that you're going to have to work through to make this work, because you know, you're so used to being rejected. You know, they may tell you, when they tell you that, like when she's like, oh, I love you, you're probably not going to believe it, because what reason would you have to believe it? I mean, you've been rejected your entire life. Why would you believe it? Like, you know, if you say you do, automatically I would say then, you know, you're just trying to hide your issues or something, because a man that's been rejected is going to have problems believing that said woman he's with loves him, or said friend he has cares about him. And, you know, it's really ridiculous, because stop looking for a GF due to rejection. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I truly get it. And, you know, like, it really is, it's a disaster that society cannot fix. It just makes it worse. And
30 seconds before you attack.
I don't think this problem will ever get any better. I think it'll honestly get much, much, much worse. And I will say that being rejected affects men more differently than women. And what I mean by that is, honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say this. People probably get mad at me for saying this. Rejection affects a man far worse than it does a woman. And the reason I say that is because a woman is never truly 100% rejected. And what I mean by that is, she may be rejected in school. She may be rejected possibly by her family, her co-workers, relationship-wise. But when it comes to dopamine hits, social media, it's all nonsense, because she would not be rejected. And I'll tell you why this is. So if you go to any gaming community, regardless if it's on Discord, Facebook, you know, whatever it's on, right? You will see people post pictures of themselves or their gamer tags and say, hey, I'm a dude or I'm a girl. And you'll notice every time that when a man posts that, he's lucky if he gets one reply or comment back on that post. If it's a female, there will literally be hundreds, like all the dudes in the entire freaking group will start commenting on this and pretty much competing with each other, because, you know, they're wanting a female friend or a female love interest. And I've seen this happen time and time again. I've talked to women about this even. I've talked to men about it, about this very issue. And it is a huge issue, especially within gaming, especially within dating. And, you know, it's honestly sad. Like, because, you know, most likely, these men that are doing this have just been constantly rejected. And, you know, in a sense, the woman is not being 100% rejected, because let's just say she's got 200 men commenting on this one picture. That's not rejection. That's a dopamine hit. That is not rejection in the slightest, because, you know, she's getting all these likes on the photo. She's getting all these comments. And, you know, it's not really fully rejection, because, sure, she may have been rejected by the people in her life, like co-workers, friends, and family, and love interests at the time. But there are plenty of men willing to give this woman the time of day there are plenty, even if it's just to be a friend, right? And it's just, you know, it's mind-boggling, y'all. Like, it really honestly is, because it really makes you think, because, you know, the dating market has gotten that bad, and, you know, dating apps is a joke as well. I'm not going to talk too much about that since it did not win the vote, but maybe I will probably talk about it some other time. And Storm killed me. There are actually a lot of times, like, you know, men, I'll tell you another thing too, like, if they are rejected, like, there are men who, you know, have witnessed violence or have been victims of violence and are more likely to see violence as an acceptable means to an end. And what I mean by that is these men will go out and commit violence because they were rejected. So, you know, think of when someone brings a gun to a school. This is a perfect example of that, because most of the time when someone does that, it's because of bullying. Most of the time. And you would honestly be surprised what bullying can make a person think. That doesn't make it right in the slightest. I do condemn those acts. But, you know, at the same time, if a person is completely rejected by humanity, I mean, what else do you expect of them? You know, do you expect them to just sit down, shut up, and take it, and then be happy about it? Like, you know, there are even women who have been rejected and went on to commit very grisly acts. Like, it's no joke. Like, rejection can honestly make a man go mad. If it can make a woman go mad, it definitely is going to make a man go mad. And one more thing I want to touch on is the fact of, like, otaku men, right? You know, a lot of times otaku men, you know, don't fit the category of what a woman wants, especially within the Western world. Like, if you go and do studies, there are, like, a lot of men have said they think it's hot when a woman watches anime. Now, the same cannot be said for women. As a matter of fact, a lot of these ones don't like it. They don't want to play video games. They don't want to have hobbies. What it is they want them to work all the time, bring in the dough, you know, so they can do their hair, their nails, get whatever they want, because they're materialistic, right? So it's like, you know, you kind of really just can't win for losing at this point. But another thing is, like, you know,
you have to stop them from securing the mission area.
A person, you know, will also go and they may even start stealing if a man has been rejected. Like, think of all the men that have been rejected, right? How many of them actually went out and stole something later on in life? Like, I mean, literally, genuinely sit there and think about it, because, you know, you will find that the number is actually quite high. And, you know, a lot of times, a lot of men, now I'm not saying all of them, but there are some who resort to violent crime, who commit crimes on the daily. There's some of them, they honestly get on dope. They try to, like, mask the feelings with alcohol. And it's a whole big mess. Like, you know, and that goes back to, you know, what I said in the other video of people saying, oh, well, if something bad happens to you, you attracted it to yourself. And it's like, no, you didn't. These men did not attract rejection to them. They didn't want that. You know, like, not once did they ever say, oh, well, man, you know, I wish I could get rejected, you know, like, you will not hear a man say that. Like, that's just absurd. Like, you won't even hear a woman say that. And because nobody wants to be rejected, that's the thing. Nobody wants to be rejected. Rejection, it can really mess up the mind, y'all, regardless if you're a woman or a man. I mean, I know we're talking about men here, but it will really mess up a man's mind. And like, you know, me personally, like, one thing I was rejected on, like, the main thing I was rejected on is, like, finding, like, genuine friendships. You know, that's exactly what, it was probably the worst for me, is finding genuine friendships, because, you know, I had girlfriends growing up, and, you know, I've been rejected by women before, but, I mean, all men have to a degree, like, but, you know, for me, it was more so like the friends kind of situation, and I don't know, it was really bad, because, like, I noticed, like, I missed out on a lot of the relationships I should have had, like friendships, growing up in school. Like, I didn't have, you know, I was the outcast in the group. I didn't have all these friends. I didn't have a big friend group. And, you know, that does something to a man. You know, regardless if you want to admit it, you know, you can live in denial all you want if that's what you want to do. But you will see that these men, a lot of them have the same thing in common, you know, as far as rejection goes. And, you know, I've even seen people try to literally bond, and like men try to bond and make friends with other men who have been rejected their whole life. And I don't really recommend this at all, because, you know, what these men are building is a trauma bond. They're not building a real, genuine friendship. They're not building that. They're building nothing more than a trauma bond. And trauma bonds never work, because you're only bonding because you've been through the same type of trauma. And, you know, another thing too is like being strung along, you know, being used, you know, these people not serious about you. All of that is a form of rejection, right? You know, and, you know, another thing too is like sexist and patriarchal beliefs towards men. You know, like, it goes a lot deeper than this, y'all. Like, it really does, you know, and it's really, it's just really sad to see, because, I don't know, I know what it feels like, and I guess a lot of the people that will see this video in the future, I guess a lot of people that voted are probably feeling the same way based on the vote. I mean, the vote pretty much speaks, you know. The people that are watching this channel, y'all are feeling the same thing. And, you know, it's like, regardless if you want to talk about it. And, yes, rejection hurts mentally. That's going to bring me to my next point. Not only will it destroy your mental health, with depression-wise, anxiety-wise, PTSD-wise, self-hate-wise, but you will honestly, at some point, you will honestly probably wish you were dead. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, you probably will wish that at a point in time. And it's like, you know, I can't tell you necessarily to not say that, because you're going to do it regardless. You're not going to listen to me. I mean, try not to, I will say, because that can be really hard. Like, you know, when you're sitting here and you wake up and the first thing you hear and see is silence and stillness, nobody around. That, I'm gonna tell you now, that shit hurts more than anything. Like, it's bad. Like, man, this Daredevil. Sorry, y'all. This Daredevil's getting on my nerves. Oh crap! I didn't see Thor there. Gotcha. Crap! I didn't make it in time. But yeah. Anyway, y'all, like, rejection will destroy you mentally, and it will destroy you physically too. Like, you will not feel like getting out of bed. You will not feel like doing anything. And it's like, you know, it's no wonder, no surprise why men have completely given up and just want to stay in their homes in peace, just play video games, you know, maybe go to church if they go, you know, or go to work and come back home and, you know, be alone, because they know that no matter what they do, that their situation is not going to change. And because the thing is these people try to act like that society does not have any sort of pressure upon you, that society doesn't have a say-so on, you know, basically who gets someone and who don't, because in a sense they do, because, you know, if you can't find that person that you're meant to be with, if you can't find that friend group that's meant to be your tribe, look, you know, there's not really anything you can do at that point. And that's what hurts the most. Like, sure, I mean, yeah, you can continue to keep trying, but it's like, you know, how many failures and letdowns is it going to cost you? How many tears at night is it going to cost? How many, you know, times of your heart being shattered and broken? How many times is it going to cost until you learn that your situation is not going to change? And the reason I say it like this is I'm not necessarily trying to be negative. I'm trying to say this as a warning. Because, you know, I don't want men to just, I don't want women either to just continue to go through complete heartache over and over and over. And it's just like, I wouldn't want that on anybody, because, you know, I know what that's like. I know how that stuff feels, and it's not a good place to be in. It's not. Like, and another thing too is, like, if you're, you know, in therapy, a lot of times even the therapy won't even freaking work, because you're not addressing the issue. You're not solving the problem. Because the therapist cannot solve this issue. They may be able to give you like tasks and stuff to do to try to get your mind off of it, or so forth. But, you know, your mind is not ever going to be fully off of it. It's going to be on your mind, because the reason why is because, like I said earlier in the video, you're wired, when God made you, you're wired to want human connection, you know, and regardless of what human it is, like, you know, you want human connection. You see all these groups trying to be isolated,
30 seconds before
like Republican against Democrat, and gay against straight, you know, women against men. Yeah, it's like, you know, you'll notice that it's always about division, and this makes the rejection problem much, much worse and much more common, because nobody can find common ground to just agree to disagree. And, you know, it's like, you know, I don't hate anybody, so I don't wish this on anybody, regardless of any of the things I just named. So, it's like, you know, it really, it really just boils down to, you know, people do not have morals, values, or a good belief system. And, you know, while mine are different than a lot of other people, I still don't hate anybody. And, like, you know, I wish the best for everyone. Well, mostly everyone. I can't say sex traffickers because I don't like them. But anyway, other than that, like, you know, I don't really hate anybody. So it's like, I understand where rejection comes from, you know, regardless of whatever you're being rejected of. And, you know, rejection hurts. I think everybody should have that someone that they can lean on, talk to, all that kinds of stuff. And, you know, it's rough out here if you don't have it, you know. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap this one up, and I'm going to probably make a new poll tonight about the next video topic. If you have any ideas that you want me to elaborate or talk about, feel free to comment it in the comments below, or if you're in the Discord server, tell me there. Either's good. Yeah, you know, people need to come together, honestly. I mean, you know, as a human being, you know, I think we probably have a lot more in common than we realize. But anyway, I'm gonna end this one here. So if you like this kind of content, like I said, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you do not miss a video. And yeah, it's a total clown world, y'all. It's a total brutal world, but you gotta keep going. You know, I do want to elaborate on this one topic before I actually end the video. Take that back. So, think about all the men who would still be here today, and all the women that would still be here today if they wasn't rejected. Like, they would still be breathing. That's an extremely tough thought to take, but it's true. So, anyway, y'all, I'm gonna hop on out of here. Gonna see if Buddy will help me out on the game here. But yeah, y'all take care and stay safe out there. You know, it's rough. It's rough, you know, living this type of lifestyle if you've lived it or if you're living it now. Like, you know, my condolences. But yeah, I'm gonna end this one here. So, God bless you all, and I will see you all next time. Peace.